The peace was shattered by the shrill ring of her iPhone. "Linda, you need to come over today." It was her sister, Patricia. Her tone its usual imperial command. "I'm hosting brunch. Mom's coming. I've had everything catered from legal seafoods." An hour later, Linda stood before the colonial grandeur of her sister's Brookline mansion. A brand new Range Rover sat proudly in the driveway, a monument to her sister and brother-in-law's success. Their mother, Carol, greeted her at the door, a Tiffany silver necklace resting against her cashmere sweater. "Isn't this lovely? Patricia is doing so well," she said, her voice a familiar refrain. Auntie Lynn, the twins, Emma and Olivia, rushed forward in matching Gap Kids dresses. As Linda hugged them, the subtle discomfort she always felt in this house tightened in her chest. The interior was a showroom of curated wealth, reportedly designed by a professional decorator. On the marble dining table, lobster croissant sandwiches and truffle-infused eggs Benedict sat arranged like still life paintings. Patricia made her entrance in a new Louis Vuitton dress, striking a pose meant for an unseen camera. Her husband, Michael, was, as usual, absorbed in the news on his iPad. "I have the most wonderful news," Patricia announced, raising a mimosa made with Dom Perignon. "We're all going to Hawaii next month. Michael's company is flourishing, and it's the perfect time for a family trip." Linda's surprise must have shown on her face, because Patricia flashed a sharp, knowing smile. "You can't play the solitary career woman forever, Linda. You need to be with family. You looked exhausted when I saw you at Copley Place." Their mother offered a weak, performative admonishment, already more interested in photographing the food for Instagram. It was the twins' innocent pleas. "Auntie Lynn, come to Hawaii with us. We're staying at the Disney Hotel." That decided her. She had miles from a recent business class sale anyway. "Of course I'll come," Linda said, her eyes catching the twins already watching videos of Hawaiian resorts on their iPads. On the morning of their departure, Linda was up early, double-checking her carry-on for the sunscreen and new swimsuit from Walgreens. The Boston sun glinted off her MacBook as she confirmed her reservation on the American Airlines app. She tried to muster a sense of excitement, but a low, persistent unease hummed beneath the surface, underscored by Patricia's final text, "Tomorrow will be a wonderful memory." The concourse of Boston Logan Airport was a river of bustling travelers. As Linda wheeled her new suitcase toward the check-in counter, she overheard a family ahead of her excitedly discussing their Disney package. "Good morning. The 9:45 to Honolulu. Name, please?" the agent asked. "Linda Williams." She presented her platinum card. The agent's smile faltered. The clatter of the keyboard stopped. "I'm very sorry, Ms. Williams. Your reservation was cancelled last night." "That's impossible. I have the confirmation. The Brown party checked in about 30 minutes ago." Her mind went numb. She fumbled for her iPhone, dialing Patricia, then Michael. No answer. Straight to voicemail. Then, a new message notification lit up the screen. "Take care of the children. We need some time." A photo followed, the twins sitting on a bench outside a Starbucks, Emma clutching a pink Build-A-Bear. Olivia's cheeks streaked with tears. Their small faces were pinched with anxiety and fear. "Emma, Olivia." Linda ran, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Excuse me, I'm looking for 2 5-year-old girls, blonde, in matching dresses." She cried out to anyone in uniform, her voice cracking with panic. More messages from Patricia arrived, each one colder than the last. "The children are in your care. The 529 plan documents are in the safe. This is our last chance." Then, a small voice cut through the din. "Auntie Lynn." They were huddled on a bench near the escalators, a spot just out of the main flow of traffic. Linda fell to her knees, pulling them into a fierce embrace. Their small bodies trembled against hers. "Mama said she'd be right back," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. "They said they were taking the shuttle bus, and then they never came back," Olivia added, her words sparking a cold fury in Linda's veins. A man in a Massport uniform approached quietly. "Ma'am, could we speak with you in the security office?" His badge gleamed. Logan Airport Police. A female staff member with a student ambassador pin offered a kind smile to the girls. "We'll get some hot chocolate and cookies." As Linda checked her phone for the damning string of messages, a Boeing 787 destined for Hawaii climbed into the vast blue sky. Her sister was on that plane, likely feeling no guilt at all. This was a family trip, but not one anyone could have imagined. The quiet of a Sunday morning was a precious commodity for Linda Williams. Sunlight, soft and golden, filtered through the windows of her home office, illuminating the dust motes dancing above a stack of reports from Boston Consulting Group. The rich aroma of Duncan coffee was a small, familiar comfort. For a moment, she paused, her gaze drifting to the garden. The new rose bush from Whole Foods, purchased just yesterday, glistened with a delicate coat of morning dew. It was a start, a small step toward making the house, a purchase made possible by her parents' help, feel like a home. She still had time before the service at Trinity Church in Copley Square. 12 exhausting hours later, a heavy silence filled Linda's living room. The police interviews and meetings with Children's Protective Services were over. For now. Emma, Olivia, the bath is ready, Linda called softly. The twins remained curled together on the sofa, surrounded by scattered crayons and a half-eaten McDonald's Happy Meal. Auntie Lynn, Emma asked in a tiny voice, are Mama and Papa really not coming back? Linda's heart shattered. The police had confirmed it. Patricia and Michael had landed in Honolulu and checked into the Hilton Hawaiian Village. I can't believe it. Their mother, Carol, had rushed over, her perfectly styled hair disheveled. She'd apparently left a church meeting. That Patricia would do such a thing. Linda's iPhone rang. A detective from the Boston Police Department. Miss Williams, have the children mentioned anything concerning? Linda recalled their words at the airport. Yes, Emma said they were fighting about money. The next morning, after dropping the twins at Brookline Public Schools, Linda went to Patricia's house with the police, a search warrant in hand. An officer led them to the second-floor study. Take a look at this. The drawers of the expensive leather desk were stuffed with a chaos of unpaid bills, maxed-out credit card statements, and financial documents from Michael's company. The rumors in the Boston Globe were true. Then, she saw the fidelity statement. The $529 college fund for the twins had been bled dry. The balance stood at $1. Over $500,000 had been withdrawn in the last 3 months. The walk-in closet was a tomb of untouched luxury, box after box of Hermes, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton, all with tags still attached. Patricia's Instagram life was a lie, a facade built by consuming her own children's future. Linda, look at this. An officer handed her a torn envelope containing bank statements from the Cayman Islands. Miss Williams, the detective called from across the room. We've found significant wire transfers under your mother Carol's name. As if on cue, Linda's phone vibrated. It was a call from Trinity Church. Her mother's voice was strained, panicked. Linda, something terrible. Patricia took the women's group fees. She used my name. Patricia, the group's treasurer, had been embezzling funds, weaving their mother into her scheme. This was completely premeditated, Linda told the detectives, her voice steady now, cold with resolve. Hours later, she sat in her quiet living room, compiling the evidence into a damning timeline. Her mother was being interviewed at the church. The twins were safe at their after-school program. When the detective called again, Linda was ready to listen. The full weight of her sister's betrayal now a solid, actionable fact. The detective's words hung in the air, cold and absolute. Again, we've discovered something significant. It appears they had no intention of returning to the mainland. Linda's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? We found one-way ticket reservations to the Caribbean. The finality of it was a physical blow. That night, the polished surface of Linda's dining table was buried not under reports for Boston Consulting Group, but under a different kind of dossier, one of betrayal, files for the police, the FBI, Child Protective Services, and a detailed brief for Sarah Cohen, a renowned attorney specializing in child abandonment cases, formed a fortress of paper. A small voice floated down from upstairs. Auntie Lynn, can we go to school tomorrow, too? Of course, Linda called back, forcing a warmth into her voice she didn't feel. She looked at the twins, their faces peeking from the banister. Life will continue as normal, I promise. She turned back to her MacBook, her fingers striking the keys with a firm, final tap. She attached the final report, a curated gallery of Patricia's Instagram perfect motherhood juxtaposed with the stark security footage from Logan. all underscored by the damning trail of financial records. She was no longer just a wronged sister. She was a guardian preparing for war. The FBI has formally joined the investigation, the detective had told her hours earlier. This is now a serious federal child abandonment case. His words were no longer a shock but a fuel, hardening her resolve into steel. Outside, Boston's skyline glittered. A silent witness. On the table, beside the grim paperwork, lay a craft from the twins' after-school care, a construction paper card scrawled with crayon, "To our beloved Auntie Lynn." Looking at those words, Linda released a sigh that carried the weight of a shattered world. Early morning, 1 week later. On the top-floor balcony of the Hilton Hawaiian Village, Patricia sipped her coffee, the azure Pacific stretching to the horizon. She scrolled through her phone, selecting the most flattering filter for her sunrise photo. "Patricia, we need to talk." Michael's voice was tight, his face pale as he clutched his iPad. "About the company's accounts." A sharp, authoritative knock echoed through the suite. The door swung open to reveal not room service, but a phalanx of law enforcement. An FBI agent stepped forward, his voice flat and procedural as he began to recite their rights. Outside the window, the thrum of a news helicopter grew louder, its ABC News logo stark against the blue sky. "I have nothing to say. I want my lawyer," Patricia stated, her chin held high in a last, desperate performance of dignity. But the performance crumbled when an officer unzipped her Louis Vuitton bag and held up the one-way tickets to the Cayman Islands. "This is a federal crime," the agent said, his voice icy. "You are charged with interstate child abandonment, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit money laundering." 2 weeks later, Boston, U.S. Attorney's Office. The conference room was a temple of justice, its long table buried under evidence. Linda sat across from Jessica Morris, a prosecutor whose steely demeanor was honed by 20 years of experience. "Miss Williams, we have a formidable case," Morris stated, her hand resting on the stacked files. "But the misappropriation of the 529 education funds will be the most powerful element for the jury. It speaks to a profound violation of trust." The evidence was a comprehensive map of deceit, security footage from Logan, the falsified ledgers from the church women's group, the forensic accounting from Michael's crumbling company. There were printouts of Patricia's meticulously staged social media life, the psychological assessment from the twins' counselor, and, most damningly, the records of the drained college fund and the documents bearing their mother's forged signature. The prosecution will seek maximum penalties on federal child abandonment charges, plus fraud, embezzlement, forgery, money laundering, and conspiracy, Morris detailed, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "The sentence?" Linda asked, her voice steady. "Up to 20 years for Patricia, for Michael, 7 to 15, contingent on his cooperation." That evening, at Boston Children's Hospital, the twins' counselor, Dr. Sarah Watson, offered a sobering prognosis. "Their recovery will be a long road," she explained gently. "The wound of maternal abandonment is one of the deepest a child can bear." 1 month later, Suffolk County Courthouse. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. The Boston Globe had the story on its front page. Patricia, clad in an orange jumpsuit, was a stark contrast to the woman who had once commanded every room. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a hollow exhaustion. "The defendants will rise." The courtroom fell into a dead silence as Patricia began to speak. I admit to everything." Her voice was a fragile thread. "It began when I learned of Michael's company, but that is no excuse. I abandoned my children." For 3 hours, her confession unraveled the entire tapestry of their lies. It was a story that started with the pressure to be a mama influencer, a performance funded by her daughter's future. She spoke of the embezzled church funds, the forged signatures, the desperate, premeditated flight to the Caribbean, and finally, she admitted the bitter seed at the core of it all, a corrosive envy for the stability of Linda's life. Michael's testimony was a hollow echo. The company had been bankrupt for 2 years, he confessed, his voice empty. "I was afraid to tell her. The lifestyle. It had to be maintained." The final witness was their mother, Carol. "I trusted my daughter too much," she said, her voice thick with a remorse that seemed to finally be genuine. "I failed the church, I failed Linda, and I failed my grandchildren." On the day of sentencing, the judge's voice was a gavel of moral judgment. Patricia Brown, your actions represent the most profound breach of trust imaginable. You did not merely abandon your children. You systematically plundered their future and betrayed every community you were a part of. On the courthouse steps, surrounded by microphones, Linda spoke with a quiet dignity. This is not a victory to be celebrated, but a necessary reckoning. Justice has been served. And now, the most important work begins, protecting the children and healing our family. Epilogue. 1 year later, the first warm day of early summer filled Linda's backyard with the sounds of laughter. The twins' 6th birthday party was a scene of uncomplicated joy, an organic cake from Whole Foods, homemade lemonade, and the shrieks of playing classmates. The anxious shadows that once haunted Emma and Olivia's eyes had been replaced by a radiant, easy happiness. That night, after the children were tucked into their matching pottery barn beds in what was once the guest room, Linda stepped into the garden. Under a canopy of stars, she allowed herself a quiet smile. On her desk inside lay the twins' school essays. The theme was, "My family." Each began with the same 2 words, "My mom." In a correctional facility, Patricia was reportedly engaged in rehabilitation programs. Her divorce from Michael was final. Letters from them arrived occasionally, but they remained unopened in a drawer, waiting for the day the children might choose to read them. And in Linda's own desk was a different kind of letter, a dinner invitation from the twins' new pediatrician, a man whose kindness had slowly kindled a warmth in Linda's heart she thought had gone cold forever. On Christmas Eve, a magnificent tree sparkled in the living room. 3 stockings hung from the mantel. In the corner, sheet music for the twins' first piano lessons lay open on the lid. "Love you, Mom," they had whispered before drifting off to sleep. Tears welled in Linda's eyes as she whispered back, "I love you, too." Outside, snow began to fall, blanketing Boston in a silent, pristine white, as if granting them a peaceful beginning on a fresh, new page.